So what you're gonna learn in this video is how to talk forever and how to never run out of things to say. So let's get into it. Now, rappers call this the $1 million mouthpiece because if you generate the ability to talk and rap forever, you can essentially make millions of dollars inside of the rap music industry. Now, even outside of that industry, think about the skill of being able to talk forever in an insanely compelling way. Basically, the $1 million mouthpiece is the ability to talk forever about anything while being completely compelling. And I've also noticed my students who are rappers also just have this on lock. But think about even outside of the music industry, using this skill set in sales, in networking, and even in, meeting women. It's an invaluable skill set to have. Now, you may have noticed that when you're out with colleagues or friends or family, you can talk forever about anything on end. However, when you're with a girl one-on-one that you're just meeting, you often run out of things to say. And so those are two different contexts. And it's not necessarily that you don't know how to talk forever. It's just that the anxiety creeps up and prevents you from having access to the things that you want to say. So the first step in this is to desensitize. So desensitization is the first phase of game. We'll put the 5 phases of game here. So what you want to do is you want to desensitize yourself through exposure therapy, which means you're approaching women and then staying in those interactions. Typically between 100 and 300 approaches, you stop giving a fuck altogether with approaching. It doesn't become a big deal for you and the anxiety kind of fades away. So you want to desensitize yourself to approaching and talking to girls in general. Which leads me into the second one, which is lower the bar. You want to lower the bar for what's good enough to say. Realize that most people are just simple creatures. We just want, good members of the opposite sex to like us. We want good food. We want some security. We want some fun and adventure, and that's about it, right? So you can talk about anything. There doesn't need to even be a logical connection between the topics. In fact, sometimes by switching the topics, it comes across as more spontaneous and fun and allows you to cover more ground and cover more emotions in the conversation, right? So some action steps for this. I want you to rant for 5 minutes straight. So you can go to Rap Script Generator and just have a new word pop up every 12 seconds and basically improv off of that word. And so this is the skill set part. This is the kind of like rubber meets the road part of this, where you're just working on the verbal skill in your brain of being able to associate and to talk forever. So the next one is free association and curiosity. So after a girl answers one of your questions that you ask, you can find jump off points to improvise off of and to continue what she says in a way that you can kind of continue the conversation. Now, let's give an example. So what's your favorite sport? Let's say she says, I did gymnastics since I was born, but I got injured too many times in competition, so now I just do it for fun. The wrong way to respond to this is to say, oh, cool. What about this? And go into the next question. The right way is to find those jump off points. So one is gymnastics. Whoa, what got you into that? Oh, I don't know, my parents were gymnasts and they put me into it. Let's say she says, the injured part. She's injured, but she still does it. What does that show? That she must really like it. Wow, you must really like that if you get injured a bunch and you still do it anyway. And then you can relate another story about you. So same thing with me in Ultimate Frisbee. Like I broke my nose, I've gotten concussions, I've had my heel be torn up, but I still love to do it. Another thing is competitions. So she went to competitions. And what does that say about her? Hey, are you like a competitive person in general or just with gymnastics? When we go on our third date, are we still gonna have to compete with who's better dressed or what about that, right? And then you can lead into other areas such as like, let's say she's adventurous and she's been to a bunch of countries. Well, we'll have to compare passports, see who has more stamps in it, right? Bring out that little competitive frame. So as you can see, you can respond in a way that leads to nothing, or you can respond in a way where you're improvising off of what she says with open-ended questions that lead the interaction forward. One last example. What do you do for work? I work as a NICU nurse. I love the babies, but it's really stressful and I'd rather work part-time. So some jump off points there. She's a nurse for babies. So you must really love babies. What about when you have your own babies? You're gonna just take care of your babies, you're gonna take care of your babies and their babies, right? Stressful. Oh, why is it so stressful? What are the hours like? Is it like, do you have annoying people that you work with? And you can talk shit about those people. And then part-time. So she wants to work part-time. Oh, okay, cool. I definitely think that's a good idea. Hunter-gatherers only work 3 hours a day. What would you do with the rest of your time? Another thing that you can do to lower the bar for what's good enough is use your environment. And at a bare minimum, describe what's around you, right? So at some venues we go to, there's like food there. What's like the best food in this place? Have you been to these places? You could describe the ambiance. I love bars like this. Just the ambiance is just so good. Like not many clubs have a good eye for this. Maybe even the music there. So if you literally have nothing, you can pull out your phone, talk about memes, which leads me to the next one. Have a favorites folder in your phone where you can basically have things to talk about. So if I run out of things to say, I just pull out my favorites folder. Oh yeah, do you have a dog? Oh, here's my dog. Oh my God, so cute. What kind of dog is it? It's a border collie. What kind of dog do you have? Like very basic back and forth. Yeah, what area do you live in? Oh, I live in Brickell. Oh my God, you live in a coffin-sized apartment with shitty views of other buildings? I feel so sorry for you. She's like, well, what's the view like at your place? Epic. Like I have a bunch of photos that I can reference and talk about. So I never really get stuck and I always have this, not in my back pocket, in my front pocket to always talk about. Also, a mindset. Everything has value simply because it comes from you. And everything you have to say is gold. Write those down. And the last note I'll give on this is that it's better to know a little bit about a lot of topics than to know a lot about few topics. And a great podcast I'll recommend is called Stuff You Should Know. It covers all types of different jobs and locations and countries and just so many different topics that you know a little bit about everything. If you don't know anything about what they're talking about, you seem kind of retarded. If you know everything about what they're talking about, then there's no point of them even explaining things to you. So a little bit about a lot. Now, the third major area is energy. What you say is not important as how you say it. So in terms of your energy, the first thing you need to be focused on is giving value. A mindset for that is focus on giving the girl a great experience, what she craves from a high value man. And now some things that you can do, some action steps, talk about lighter conversation topics. Talking about race relations and politics and religion can really put people into a combative and almost triggered frame. So you want to talk about lighter things, such as dreams. What's your dream house? What's your dream car? What's your dream job? Where do we want to travel? Where are we going to travel when we're married? Which leads me to another action step. Make the conversation fun by using different frames and different role plays. So an example of a role play would be, oh my God, ever since the moment I saw you, I knew that you were the one. And giving her a fake plastic ring. You can get plastic rings on Amazon for $5 for a whole thing of them. So proposing to her, and then it's like this funny kind of inside joke that you have against everyone else. Me and her are married, then you can bring in other things like, you know what, for that, we're getting fucking divorced. Get out of the car. No, we're not doing this. So you're focusing on giving value and being more engaging. So you can talk engagingly about anything. One exercise I have students do is have them talk about certain things in an engaging way. What's an unengaging way to talk about this? It's just like a piece of electronics that you put in your computer. A compelling way to talk about it. This dongle gives you access to literally everything you would ever need to connect, distribute, edit, create, and put that good value into the world in this only life that we have. Crafted out of beautiful aluminum with so many inserts, so many holes that you can use. So you can talk about anything in a fun or engaging way if you just put a little bit of emotion into it. And I'll have another video where we go into universal human emotions, so check that out. So what you're also doing is sub-communicating. That's in terms of the energy of the conversation. If she asks me what my favorite fruit is, and I say, I like blueberries. They're pretty delicious. That's kind of neutral, almost kind of gay. Now, if I say, oh, my favorite fruit, and I lean in and I go, blueberries. Oof. Blueberries taste so good. I even feed them to my dog sometimes, and I preferably like to have people put them in my mouth. I don't like to eat them myself. Blueberries are meant to be shared in the ultimate bro experience. So you can sub-communicate. Talk slower, lower, louder, breaking your proportionality, resonant in the chest, getting in closer, proximity, physicality, touching. That perfect balance where she's comfortable, but you're also kind of putting some intensity into that interaction. You're also self-amusing, which I have an entire series on, so check that out. Basically, you're focusing on expression, not impression, and saying the things that put you in a good mood, your passions, the things that make you laugh, and get yourself into a good state because of the golden rule of game. Whatever you feel, she feels. Another thing is talk about something that's been on your mind. If there's something that's been bothering you, something that was stressful. For example, the other day we went out to a Thai restaurant and they have a rule. You're only allowed to order once. And I said to the guy, I said, hey, I know we're only allowed to order once, but can I order twice and just give you a huge tip, extra $20? And he says, get the fuck out of my fucking restaurant. Show some goddamn respect. It's not about the fucking money to me, you piece of shit. And I was like, Jesus. I thought he would just be like, oh no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. So that was something that was on my mind, and I'd use that in different interactions. When we talk about what type of food do you like, I would bring, oh yeah, and we went to this Thai food place today and this happened. Right? So a little story about what happens. The next thing is meditation. So meditation gives you presence, which allows you to connect with people. So it's not that you have to focus on eye contact. You need to focus about being connected to people, being present with them, and offering them value. Meditation also increases your verbal fluidity, so your ability to talk forever fluidly, and just in general, your ability to connect with people. It kind of does the opposite of what porn does. Porn makes you more weird, less able to connect, decrease your ability to pair bond, and stifles you. Puts you more in your head, as opposed to meditation, which puts you more into your body. Number 4, let them talk, okay? Get the other person to talk about themselves. Every book about social skills tells you get the other person to talk about themselves and they will walk away thinking it was the best conversation they've ever had. Why is that? Because everyone cares mostly about themselves. So if you allow them to talk about themselves, you can generate a great conversation. So attraction isn't just forcing your perspective and forcing your ideas and forcing your verbal vomiting onto them forever. Obviously, in the beginning, you're doing most of the talking, but you quickly transition to a 50-50 exchange where you're able to generate passive attraction by sitting back and allowing them to contribute. And this also gives them time to qualify themselves and even fill in pauses. So one of my favorite examples of this, let's say, Lubo, what's your favorite sport?
Snowboarding. Yeah, I love snowboarding. I've been to tennis for such a long time.
So did you feel like there was a gap there that you had to fill? So if you ask a question, they answer very shortly, smile, nod, and go like this, like, go on, and allow them to explain kind of why they like it. So some action steps. Ask more open-ended questions. Now with open-ended questions, it's good to be on a specific thing. So a bad example would be, what's your story? If you ask someone what their story is, what does that mean? Should I start in my childhood? How long do they want me to expound on this for? Should I talk about like my story of what I'm doing here? It's so much confusion and mental kind of strain that they don't want to answer. And it puts a lot of pressure on them that they just feel bad. So a good example would be like if they say, what's your favorite sport? Snowboarding? And you go, oh, why do you like snowboarding? How'd you get into that? Yeah, how'd you get into snowboarding? Oh, well, I did it with da-da-da-da. Oh, do you still like it? Oh man, I love it. So you can ask kind of follow-up questions to allow them to go on. And this is kind of a conversational technique called following the trail of breadcrumbs, which you can do proactively or reactively when they ask you. So a great example of this is like, man, you're so different than girls where I'm from. Builds curiosity, and she goes, what are girls like where you're from? They're different in these ways, but yeah, I'm traveling here because of what I do for work. Oh, really? What do you do for work? So you can say things in a way that gets them to bite. Another example would be if you know another language, you can start speaking in that language just out of the blue. Like, for example, if you look at a girl's hair and you're like at the point where your physicality is like able to touch her hair, you're like, tu cabello es muy largo, which means your hair is very long. And they'll go, wait, they'll either say, what language was that? Or they'll say, how do you know Spanish? And then you can go into this whole thing where they're asking you for why you're so cool. Oh, you know, I lived in Colombia for a couple of years. How did you get to do that? Oh, I have a job where I work online, so I can basically live anywhere. Oh, what kind of job? So it leads down a rabbit hole where they're asking you. Another conversational technique is just using forward. These are things that universally people like to talk about. Family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Especially the dreams part. People love talking about dreams. They love talking about what they do for fun and their passions, so recreation. And when they talk about their passions, be curious and find out why they like it, how they got into it, things about it that they enjoy. And what that does is it puts them into a better state themselves where they love expressing these funner, lighter topics. And remember, the conversation should be a balance between you and her and things about you together. So the we frame, what are we gonna do? Oh, you know what we should do? We should go jet skiing. You know what we should do? We should travel here. Building that we frame together. But this has been How to Talk Forever. Desensitize yourself to approaching women and staying in the interactions itself. Lower the bar for what's good enough to say. Practice verbal vomiting. And use conversational techniques to keep the interaction going. Project a great energy, so you're giving value rather than taking value. You're putting yourself into the state that she wants to be in herself, and you're letting her talk. If you made it this far in the video, drop a like and comment down below what was the most insightful thing that you learned in this video, and I'm gonna give $100 to the answer that I like best. Hope this was useful. Go put this into your own game right now, right today. And remember, information is useless without action, so go implement it, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.